Carbohydrates, especially refined starches, often come with a misleading reputation. Promoted as essential sources of energy, these foods are frequently embedded in our daily diets, without scrutiny. But behind the seemingly harmless bowl of white rice, slice of white bread, or plate of plain pasta lies a metabolic burden that silently contributes to a host of chronic conditions. The danger is not just in the sugar we sprinkle on our cereals, but in the sugars our bodies rapidly create from these refined starches, what can be referred to as hidden sugars. Refined carbohydrates such as white flour, white rice, and traditional pasta are stripped of their fiber, bran, and many of their nutrients during processing. What remains is a rapidly digestible starch that, once consumed, breaks down almost instantly into glucose. This surge in glucose enters the bloodstream with alarming speed, causing a sharp spike in blood sugar. In response, the pancreas releases insulin to shuttle the glucose into cells, but frequent spikes over time place immense pressure on this hormonal system. This can eventually lead to insulin resistance, a precursor to type 2 diabetes. The glycemic impact of these starches can be as severe as, and in some cases even worse than, consuming table sugar. This is particularly troubling because most people are unaware of the blood sugar roller coaster they initiate when consuming a sandwich on white bread or a serving of instant mashed potatoes. These blood sugar fluctuations not only contribute to long-term metabolic issues, but they also influence short-term energy levels, mood, and appetite. The initial glucose surge may produce a brief feeling of satisfaction, but it is often followed by a rapid crash, leading to fatigue, irritability, and an intense craving for more carbs, fueling a vicious cycle of overeating. Overconsumption of refined starches is also linked to fatty liver disease, elevated triglyceride levels, and abdominal fat accumulation. These conditions are not merely cosmetic, they significantly raise the risk of cardiovascular disease. Many individuals may feel safe consuming what they assume are simple, clean carbs without realizing they are unknowingly pushing their bodies toward metabolic dysfunction. Weight gain is another insidious outcome. Because refined carbs lack fiber and digest so quickly, they fail to promote lasting satiety. People who rely on refined starches often eat more frequently and in larger quantities, yet still report feeling hungry soon after a meal. This pattern contributes to chronic overeating and, eventually, obesity. Children, in particular, are vulnerable, as many of their meals, school lunches, snacks, cereals, are based on processed starches. This sets them on a trajectory toward early insulin resistance and other metabolic problems, even if they appear healthy on the outside. There's also growing concern about the neurological effects of chronically high carbohydrate consumption. Blood sugar spikes have been associated with increased risk for cognitive decline, and emerging evidence links high glycemic diets with neuroinflammation. Over time, excessive glucose may damage the delicate structures of the brain, potentially accelerating aging and increasing the risk of dementia. This is particularly alarming in societies where refined starches are consumed at nearly every meal. Even in individuals who are not yet diabetic or overweight, a high intake of refined starches can produce oxidative stress and systemic inflammation. These underlying processes silently damage blood vessels, organs, and tissues long before overt symptoms emerge. By the time a person begins to experience clear signs such as fatigue, high blood pressure, or elevated fasting glucose, the damage has often been accumulating for years. It is important to emphasize that not all carbohydrates are the problem. Whole, unprocessed sources like vegetables, legumes, and whole grains offer fiber, antioxidants, and a slower, more balanced release of energy. But the prevalence of refined starches, cheap, shelf-stable, and heavily marketed, makes them a cornerstone of the modern diet. This widespread consumption continues despite overwhelming evidence of their role in fueling chronic disease. Ultimately, refined starches are not neutral foods. They may masquerade as simple, traditional staples, but they're functionally little different from sugar in how they impact the body. Their effects on blood sugar, appetite control, and long-term metabolic health cannot be ignored. A diet heavily reliant on white bread, white rice, pasta, and other processed grains is not just lacking in nutrients, it is actively harmful. The sooner we confront the hidden dangers of these carbohydrates, the better our chances of reversing the global surge in diabetes, heart disease, and obesity.